Good to get started, and I think we've worked so hard to gain some momentum in this program that we've worked so hard to just keep that momentum, because we know how hard momentum is to get, and you look back to last year, and I told our players this, and maybe there's not a game we lost that we probably didn't have a chance to win. But then on the flip side, if you're totally honest and you look at it, there's not a game we won that we might not have had the possibility to lose. So there's a very small margin for error. But I was astonished to hear this stat up at the Mountain West Conference Media Days. I guess we've been playing football here at New Mexico for 117 years. And there's 19 times that a team has won 7 or more games. And one of those was last year. And you stop and put that statistic right there into perspective. 117 years of Lobo football. And 19 times the Lobos have won 7 games or more, and one of them was last year. I think that's tangible evidence that there is momentum in the program, and we are headed in the right direction. And with that said, they don't give any carryover points from last year. You don't receive any bonus points as you start out. So everything slate is wiped clean on August 1st, and you start. We've got a couple things that are probably a little bit different. Maybe expectations. That can either be the best thing that happened to us if we use it the right way, or if we don't, it could be the worst thing that happened to us. And then I think the second thing, there's more competition at positions. And the same can be said about that, right? I mean, competition at position can be the best thing that happens to your team, or if you don't handle it the right way, sometimes can cause you to fragment, divide, and it could be the worst thing that happened to you. But at least we're in the hunt, and at least we have some momentum, and probably as enthusiastic and as excited as I've ever been about starting a season. I know our players feel that way. I know our coaches feel that same way, and hopefully people in the community feel the same way too. So, with that said, we've all been in a lot of these first press conference of the year. So rather than me just keep talking, let's open it up. Rick, you want to take the first question of the 2016 season here?
We talked a little bit in Vegas about the O-line, some holes to fill there, some uncertainties. But do you feel like you do with all the kids you have, the kids you're bringing in, with the raw material is there?
Yeah, you went right to the probably number one area of concern, without going back through the history or evolution of how we're in this situation. You still go back to those 2 injuries last year, a year ago, that took away 2 starters, Toye Adawan and Johnny Visciano, but we're still recovering. We do have some numbers. I think we potentially do have some talent. Chris Lewis is an absolute key for us. He has all the physical skills. He's a big giant. He's 6'3", 300 and some pounds, good athlete. Avery Jordan is a guy that's never gotten in a stance for us yet. But having been here all summer, I mean, he jumps out. He'll jump out at you the first time you're out on that practice field when you see him. Certainly Blaze Fountain and Bohat at center. There's a lot of competition going there, but neither one of those guys have ever snapped the ball in a game. Aaron Jenkins has played a lot of football. He's a good football player, even though he's a redshirt sophomore. And then Reno's coming back off of the injuries from the Arizona game. So we've got a lot of other young guys. A lot of guys will have the opportunity to make a name for themselves. We have a new offensive line coach, which I think in a lot of ways gives everybody on the offensive line an opportunity again to wipe the slate clean and just show what you have. So it's a concern. It's kind of exciting. Last year when those 2 players went down, that was panic. We moved Ziltz and Chris Lewis over to offense. At least now we know, and we've had time to prepare for that kind of turnover we've had in the offensive line.
What's the transition like between you and your new coach?
I think we'll find out. It's hard to tell, obviously, until you go out there and coach. But as I said, I think you always have a list, just like I'm sure the AD has a list of potential head coaches in mind in case the head coach gets removed. I think you always have a list as a head coach. You're always kind of researching. And Saga Tuateli really fits what we do exclusively. The percentages of what they did under center compared to shotgun, pistol may be a little bit different, but it's the same philosophical system. So I think he actually brings a lot schematically. He has been an offensive coordinator. He has called the plays. So I'm excited about it. I mean, it's a terrific fit. It's a terrific fit. And he's a very personable guy, has some fire, has some juice to him. I expect that it's going to be a very clean transition. And the early reports are it's pretty good. Of course, nobody's blitzed us yet. So I guess we'll find out as we go.
They're looking at the roster. There are a couple of kids, Cameron Thomas and Anselm Newman, and there's another kid that surfaced over the weekend that's not
Right.
pro yet. Any of those kids on scholarship?
You know what? I think tomorrow I'll give out the permanent exact roster, with the exact height and weights, the exact status of what they are in the program. So it's locked in. We're done. We're at 85 scholarships right now. We have used our 25 initials. So Rick, I think tomorrow is probably the best way to do that, and then we give it out at one time.
Coach, how many newcomers do you see contributing, and who might they be?
Too early. Lee, it's way too early to say that. It's all speculation. It is a little bit different now because you've had the newcomers here really all summer. But when we're involved, you can't have a football out there. So it's really just judging on athleticism and maybe your lack of depth at some positions where you're kind of penciling guys in. I think it's too early, but I mean, a couple names that I think are key for us, as I mentioned, I think Avery Jordan is an absolute key for us moving forward. I think Emmanuel Harris, a young slot back receiver, is really a guy that, looks like he's mature enough that can maybe help us. Obviously, Jaden Boatwright's back on our football team. That really was a starter for us and a very productive starter. So I kind of put him in that newcomer category as well. Austin Acacio is a linebacker that was here in the spring that not many people know about that's really a good player. I could keep going. But I think if I'm just looking for guys right out of the box that weren't here in the spring, it would probably be Avery Jordan and Emmanuel Harris. But we'll have to see how it goes.
Now that coaches are allowed to retweet and curse in second thoughts.
I'm holding out. Like I told you, I can't be first on the social media craze or tweeting. So now I'm holding out to be dead last. And I'm going to call Nick Saban. It's down to he and I. We go back a long way, We're kind of the couple dinosaurs still hanging out there. So I'm just going to wait till the end. I kind of wanted to read about the whole retweeting thing just to kind of get myself up to speed. But I kind of gave up on it because it got too complicated. And that's where lies my problem. I'm too lazy and too stubborn to really learn the whole game of it. So, yeah, I'm holding out, Rick. I'm going to be the last one. I guess there's 8 of us left, right, that aren't tweeting. So I'm gonna take that thing to the end.
Any such thing as momentum, Coach, from last year that you can carry on over this year?
I think there is. But again, I think August 1st, the slate wipes clean. I think there's momentum that takes you into the off-season program in January. I think certainly that momentum goes into the spring and summer. But I really have always been one that believed August 1st, it all starts over. For the good of things, for the bad of things. I think at some point, August 1st, always that cutoff to me, where now it's all new now, and all things are equal.
How's Delane Hart-Johnson doing, Coach?
Who? Oh, Delane Hart-Johnson. I'm sorry, I didn't understand you. He is, first of all, thank God he's alive. And I wouldn't say that if he didn't know that and his family didn't know that. I'm not trying to say that to make it more dramatic than it is, but thank God he's alive. Second of all, he's back in school. He was enrolled in the second summer session. We're going to redshirt him this year. And, you know, he had fractured a vertebrae in his neck, which will completely heal. In fact, it's healed now, so he's been cleared to do some things. But just with the trauma he took with the head, whether it was whiplash or from the trauma of the force of the accident, I just think it's best, and we all think it's best, to just give him a year to kind of, you know, the fortunate thing, you know, he still has 2 years of eligibility left, so it's really a redshirt year for him.
In terms of skill set, is there anybody like Delane or similar?
You know, I think I'm really anxious as to see Patrick Reed. You know, what can Patrick Reed do? You know, he has a similar skill set to Delane. You know, he hasn't played receiver as long as Delane because he was a quarterback. But he's that guy, you know, the taller, longer guy that can go up and make the deep play for you. You know, Matt Corrals. You know, Matt Corrals has been plagued by hamstring injuries. You know, we've been waiting on Matt Corrals for him to have the opportunity to go do it. And then we've got a couple young guys, Q Drennan, that we redshirted last year, that's a receiver that can get down the field, was a quarterback. And then Anu Samoy, a young guy we redshirted from Houston. So we have some talent there. We have some talent. It's just young. And, you know, obviously the Delane Hart, you know, you take Jarrell Presley and Delane Hart away from your football team, that's two very explosive players. But I do think we have some potential explosive guys in both those spots, at running back and receiver.
Coach, you said on the spring that you had 2 quarterbacks, possibly 3 that you could be running out there. Has anything changed over the summer on that?
Yeah, we have 5 now.
You have 5?
We do. I really, you know, it's interesting, you know, going into camp, you know, who trots out there with that first offense, the first snap tomorrow? Too close to call. Austin Apodaca did some things in the spring from a kind of a wow standpoint. You know, he just made some incredible plays in the spring. And from a leadership standpoint, he's pretty dynamic as a leader. We know Lamar fits our offense completely in the running game. Lamar's, you know, he rushed over for over 100 yards several times last year. Lamar's a great leader. He was captain of our team last year as a sophomore, right? So, and then Jawan Lawson deserves the chance to play and get some opportunities to show what he can do in a game. So I really, I'm not saying it for effect, or I'm not saying it to try to motivate any quarterbacks. I just feel that there's 3 players that can play. And I'm not afraid to use them, and not afraid to switch and play any one of the 3 during a game. Certainly Austin and Lamar are ahead of Jawan right now. So, you know, we'll see how it goes.
The defense was obviously ahead of the offense in the spring, part of the experience on the defensive side. Also, you were installing a lot of stuff on the offense. At the end of the spring, was the offense where you hoped it would be?
It was so hard because Reno was out in the spring. Garrett Adcock was out in the spring for the most part. He was a law student, and he had law classes a couple days a week. It was just hard because the offense had absolutely no continuity up front. And a couple springs ago, it didn't matter that much because we weren't good enough on defense to quite honestly exploit it. But we do have a lot of experience on defense now. And the offense was behind throughout the spring. It's not where we need it to be. It's not where we hope to be. We are behind a little bit on offense. Again, back to the offensive line piece and replacing Jarrell Presley and Delane Hart. So to answer your question, no, it never really did catch up. But we've got 1 month from, tomorrow to get it caught up. But it's a full-on kind of maniacal approach. I mean, we know where we are on offense, and we know what we need to do over these next 4 weeks. And we've identified our areas of weakness. So it's full-on every day trying to clean up some of the things that we had problems with.
So right now, everybody's a goal except for 2.
Yeah, Delane Hart and Ramel Jordan, both will redshirt. I think Ramel used up his redshirt year, but neither one of those 2 will take part in the fall. You'll see them out there. They'll be around. They'll be at practice, but they're not going to play this fall. Other than that, we're, we've got a couple little things. Ryan Santos tweaked his hip a little bit last week lifting weights. All the guys that had the surgeries, the shoulders, the knees, are all cleared to go. So we're in good shape that way. You know, we're full on. We're full on.
With Romel out, it seems like you still have some good depth at running backs. When will we make the decision about the two freshmen RBs?
I think it'll kind of take care of itself. We do have some depth. We do have some, you know, exciting guys that I think can touch the ball and do some things for us. Again, as you know, you can't have too many. You know, amount we run the football, as amount as we put 2 or 3 backs on the field at one time. I'm anxious to see the 2 freshman backs, as are everyone else. They've been here the bulk of the summer. Contrell Moran and Day Vigilant. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. I mean, it's all hands on deck to try to win right now. You know, I'm not, you know, it's all about trying to win right now.
So are you pretty confident in the kicking? I know we won a couple games because of somebody blowing kicks. Do you feel confident this year that you have a really good kicking?
No, I'm nervous about it, you know, starting with the kickers. Jason Sanders, we know how explosive he is. Maybe one of the best, or not the best, kickoff men in the country. Can he become more consistent as a field goal kicker? So, you know, that's a concern. You know, we have one kicker right now. And in the punt game, one thing I didn't mention, Sam Gentry is ineligible for the first 4 games, which is the first time we've had that happen. But we did bring in a punter with our Newcomer guys, and a JC punter that led the nation last year in punting, Corey Borquez. So we're really thin there. You know, we really have one punter and one kicker. You know, fortunately, we have a really good deep snapper back. Carlos Wiggins graduates. You know, and the first thing we start tonight is kicking game. You know, that as we meet as a team tonight, once we get through some of the laundry list of things you do, the first thing we do is kicking game. So that's really, really an emphasis this year. You know, so we've got a lot of pieces of it that are good, but we've got some concerns there because of depth.
As good as the kick return has been to you since you've been here out in the field, out the movement to eliminate the kickoff.
I hope we don't. I hope that's absolutely a last-ditch effort, because there is a lot of strategy, and some of you know there's some conversation. I don't know at what level it's at, but there's some conversation about removing the kickoff from college football. And, you know, I just hope that all the research is done completely and there's no knee-jerk reaction, which I'm sure that will be the case. But I hope we don't remove it from the game, because so much strategy is involved with the kickoff, whether it's like what you said of us returning kickoffs, or whether it's the onside kick last year against Arizona. If there's any area of college football where maybe you can outwork someone or out-emphasize another team, it's in the kicking game. And you know, even in decisions of putting your best players on the kicking game or not. So I think all those things come into play to maybe help you beat an opponent that maybe you shouldn't, maybe you're the underdog against. So I just hate to take anything away from the game. But obviously we're all going to say the same thing, that if it is going to help safety, then we're all for it. I would just hope that all the research absolutely points to it's that dangerous, and we need to have this dramatic of a solution to this. And it's not done with any kind of an agenda or any kind of public relations or knee-jerk reaction, that it's absolutely worth doing it.
Coach, do you think Clogauchi's going to make an impact at tight end this year?
I think so. You know, Marty, I think if he can, again, you know, stay healthy, we're all pulling for him. He you know, he certainly makes an impact on our team every day he walks in the room, because he's a leader and he's an unbelievable kid that everybody respects. He can be a heck of a tight end for us. So if he can stay healthy, I think he will be. And, you know, we're not going to do, you know, you're tempted. You're like the kid in the candy store with Cole, because you say, you know, well, what happens on 3rd and 1 if we just put him under center and we let him run the ball? And, okay, what happens if we do some things and put him at running back and let him catch the ball or run the ball? You know, what happens if on special teams, you're so tempted to put him everywhere and try to utilize everything, you always have to catch yourself. And it all starts with Cole being healthy, which so far so good. And if anybody deserves a break, it's Cole Gauchi. So to answer your question, absolutely he can be an impact for us.
Coach, from what you saw in the summer, can you pinpoint a position where you said, man, we got better here?
I don't know the summer. You know, it's kind of a overall thing in the evolution of this program. You know, we've gotten better in all phases. I mean, just the numbers of players we have, the way the players look, the way the players act, the culture, that dreaded word culture, it absolutely is good enough for us to win here. I couldn't say one position. I think one side of the ball, we've absolutely made dramatic strides on defense, but we're still not good enough. We are so much better on defense, where I am actually looking forward to seeing if we're good enough to win on defense. You know, can we go win some games on defense? We have a chance to do that. That doesn't mean we're going to do that, but that defense is built up to the point where we should have high expectations, and I know our players do. So one side of the ball, Lee, would be defense. You know, we've got some really good stats of how much we've improved, but we all know that's skewed because we were so bad as we built this. But I honestly think we have a chance to have a good defensive team, and I'll be disappointed if we don't, honestly.
Does that make you feel good, considering your past and what side of the ball you coached on?
It makes me feel like we have a chance to win. You know, I do think, and I've said this since I walked in, we have to be a little bit different, and we have to be a little bit unique. And the combination of blitzing and being an attacking defense and be able to force negative plays, which we're finally got to the point we can do that, and be able to run the ball, do some things triple option wise on offense, gives us the best chance to win, to overcome some inherent odds we may have. Not for 1 year, but for the totality as we try to build this program. So not me because I've coached on defense. You know, I've been a head coach for a fairly long time now. It's about how do we build this program. And I know deep down here what we have to do is be different, we have to be unique, and we have to be able to stop some people. And I'm really anxious to see if we can.
Coach, is a bowl game now the expectation?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and yeah.
Coach, we have lots of running backs coming back, but do you have any redshirt running backs that we don't know about that might surprise us?
No, I think the ones that we really don't. Richard McCorley, I think, is a guy, again, if he matures, could be really a good player for us. I think Chestnut is a kid that was highly recruited. He's in the mold of guys we've had success with, you know, the 5'7", 5'8", very explosive player. So Chestnut and McCorley, I still put in that category of maybe a lot of people don't know about them. And I also do that with Tyrone Owens. You know, Tyrone Owens had the big run against Arizona State last year. He's a good football player. So I think there's some kids right there that weren't redshirted that maybe you got a glimpse of that I think are really good backs. And I'm anxious to see.
Is Dyvon Woodhouse, his status still the same, mostly defense, second?
A little more offense. We're inclined a little more offense first, defense second. Just when Romel was injured, we felt like Woodhouse, and Woodhouse had a great summer. Woodhouse will be more offense, a little bit of defense, so it's kind of flopped.
Now that you spent the first 4 years getting the program back to where you think it's competitive, does your approach change any now that you have a little bit more just weapons at your disposal? Now you've got the program kind of where you...
I don't think so. I think it's, you know, it's even more outwork, out hit, out discipline. It's even more the GPA, going to class, doing the right things, getting every ounce out of every kid we can get in this program. So, I mean, it's more of that. It's not like, okay, maybe there's a little more ability, maybe there's a little more talent, let's deviate and be a little more. It's back to even more of just relentless on doing the things that can separate us from the teams we play. You know, how do we, in our situation, win in this conference? How do we go do it? I gave you that statistic of 117 years of football, and 19 times 7 wins or more. That's a lot of history and a lot of time. What do we do different to be able to go win in this conference? And to me, it is the things that, like right there, okay? Some of the uncommon things that maybe other teams don't do, we have to make up the difference. So nothing's different. If anything, it's even harder, and it's more responsibility on the players and more exactness, more attention to detail, less unselfishness. I just think that's us. And at the end of the day, and I told our players this, okay, we've kind of got to a certain point. The only way I've been able to have some success as a coach is when I can go out there and whoop somebody's butt. You know, I can't win by trying to out-scheme them or out-trick them or out whatever it is. The only way I know to get us to the next level is to go whoop somebody's butt and be physical. That's the emphasis. That's the emphasis. Because I look at us as always being the underdog. But even if I wasn't the underdog, that's the only way I know how to win.
Exactly. Now, you take the culture, I'm just wondering if you're able to focus your attention on more football-related things from that standpoint that you didn't have to worry about before, trying to get the program back to ground zero.
It's a constant thing of, you know, one thing I learned going around the country with ESPN, it may be the most valuable thing I learned, everybody has problems. You always think the grass is greener. Always. Everybody has problems. And that thing of 90% don't care you have them and 10% are glad you have them is really the truth. So I always focus on all the little things, if that makes sense. And every day there's some other thing that comes to your desk. That's just what it is. That's what this profession is. And I think that's what experience does, of being able to keep your eye on the target and coach your team. That old thing of coach your team. That's what matters. And so I hear what you're saying. We do have a lot of things going for us now to a degree that we didn't have, whether it's size of the roster, you know, the way we're feeding kids now, all the things, but it's still every day of full on. So I hope I answered that question.
Are you happy that in the Western Conference, now San Diego State picked 1, and San Jose State, and then Nevada 2 and 3? We get to play San Jose State and Nevada. Are you happy because of that kind of? I mean, I'm just saying we're playing the top teams in the other divisions. Does that make a difference?
Well, I don't look at us as the next to last team in this division. So all the where they're picked, I'm not trying to be sarcastic, that means nothing to me. Where you're picked in order. I look forward to playing San Jose State and Nevada because they, in some ways, embarrassed us a little bit last year. You know, I don't think we played nearly as good at Nevada as we were capable of. I'm not taking anything away from them. I think they were a little bit better than us. I don't think we played at San Jose as good as we can play. You know, those 2 games, again, I spent a lot of time talking to our team about that, you know, of all those things of, you know, yeah, we were 7-6, but let's be honest now. Did we really play as good as we're capable of playing? You know, I mean, there were games we left on the field. And Nevada and San Jose State are 2 games that we were very disappointed with. I go back to the Tulsa game at home. We didn't play very good against Tulsa. In fact, we got embarrassed, if we're honest, against Tulsa, the way we played defense. So I'm pretty realistic. But playing San Jose and Nevada, it's because they whooped us last year. And we got a chance to play them at home is what I'm looking forward to. I don't even pay attention to who's picked where. That's silly to me.
Coach, with that question, how strong is the Mountain West from last year?
I think it's strong, particularly in the Mountain Division. It's strong. I mean, you look at every team, Boise, Colorado State, Air Force, Wyoming, us. I think every team has the potential. Utah State has the potential to go to a bowl game, without a doubt. I mean, at some point, Wyoming's getting better now. They've played a lot of young players. Wyoming's been good in the past. Wyoming's going to get better. So I think the Western Division, or the Mountain Division, is good, really good, top to bottom. And I think you can put us in there too. I don't think anybody's looking forward just licking their chops to play us right now. So I think it's a very balanced conference. Probably more balanced than when I first came here. I think it's very balanced. The other side of it, I don't know really. You know, I'm not as, you know, I don't know what Fresno State really is because we haven't played them here for a little while. All right, man. All right, guys.